Hi there, and welcome back to another episode of From Performer to Producer podcast. My name is Bugom, and in today's episode, I'm walking again. I want to share something that's on my heart, something I've been thinking about, and that's a sentence that I've heard numerous times, and that's that if you can imagine yourself doing anything else but arts, that you should do that. Or if you have stage fright, then you're not meant for this job. And the performing arts industry is disabling its artists and taking away from itself by propelling these ideas that some people are just born with a stronger mindset or born with a calmer nervous system than others, and only those people should be performers, and everybody else is just like, you're too weak for this pressure, should just bye, you're not meant for this job. And in 2018, when I lived in Switzerland for 2 years, and I had a total nervous breakdown. I was spiraling, and that's when I started therapy. And since I started therapy, I was like, why don't performers have obligatory therapy at academy? Because what I've learned from now, in years of learning about nervous system and mindset and all of that, and mental health, is that our nervous system reactions can be taught. Our capacity to hold stressful situations is something that can be grown and trained. And in our industry, there is this very set kind of rule and opinion that only certain people can handle this pressure. There have been research that the most stressful job in the world is being a surgeon, and then the second is being a performer, because we are constantly on everyday basis facing one of the human race biggest fear, and that's fear of public of being seen and of being judged, and of just public speaking and publicly performing and publicly showing yourself. And we are dealing with this every single day. We are exposed to it every single day, and nobody teaches you how to face the critique, how to deal with rejection, how to grow your nervous system capacity to hold these kind of experiences. And some people learn it unconsciously through life. Some people really are born with maybe a bigger range and nervous system, just a possibility, let's say, capacity. But this is something that can be trained. This is known that this can be trained and grown. There are tools that can be learned to deal with rejection, to deal with imposter syndrome, to deal with stage fright. And not only to mention that the way we are taught and the way the messages that are propelled in our society also encourage us to feel anxiety, to feel afraid, to be very self-conscious, to be perfectionists, to not make a mistake, to follow rules. Either you'll be out of the group, out of the, our performing society. These are all messaging. This is the messaging that I've experienced and I've seen, not only in Croatia where I live, but on international level while I was auditioning and living abroad and everything. And we don't talk about mental health for performers enough. And I just had this huge need to kind of send the message to anyone listening. If you've been told that you're too weak for this profession, if you've been told that you're any trait connected to your mind, to your mental health, to your nervous system is not acceptable in the performing arts industry, that's a lie. And that is something that can, first of all, be taught, can be trained, can be changed. And instead of saying, oh, well, the industry is cruel and the industry is like this or like that and you have to get used to it, how about we all start simultaneously growing our capacity for holding things like that and insisting that no, the industry doesn't have to be like this, because we're doing no one a favor clutching to this perfectionism and not being allowed to make a mistake. And this is how the industry works. And that's why I'm so passionate about empowering other colleagues to start doing their own projects. Stop waiting for the big guys to run their shows, to tell them you're good enough, here is a role for you because now you're ready. We have to, everybody says this, but it's true, you have to start before you're ready. The moment I started performing on my own and created a performance for myself, an opera performance for myself, and I did it in a fun way. The music was written for me, for the audiences I love to perform with a storyline that I believe in, with a message that I believe in. It was created in a very safe environment for me to explore my voice, to play with my voice. There was no pressure to sound a certain way. It was just like, because I had a director who had no idea about opera, and she was more interested in the expression of it all. Then this tone technically isn't right or wrong, because it's funny when you work at an opera house or in opera productions, what will happen very often is that everyone will have opinion on your tone, and everybody will want to give you that opinion. I literally once had to say, it was very scary for me. This is something that my therapist and coach taught me. While we were doing Beauty and the Beast, all of my colleagues wanted to give me their opinions because they wanted to help. The team I work with is incredibly wonderful and so supportive. But somehow we're taught in our industry that it's okay to just give our opinions on everybody and everything. And so everybody would come to me and tell me what I was doing right or what I was doing wrong, what I could do better, what was blah, blah, blah. And at one point I got so overwhelmed because, as always in our industry, the opinions were very opposite. And I wanted to please everyone, and I wanted for the team to embrace me and to support me and to think that I'm good. But at one point I was just on a breaking point. I was totally lost in all of these, opinions and all of these instructions. And then I really respect this one colleague who came to me and said, "Can I give you my opinion?" And I was like, "I'm sorry, but no. Right now I can't take any more opinions, and I appreciate you wanting to help me, but right now I have to listen to just two people, which is my teacher and the director, and that's it." And then when I calmed down with my system, my nervous system was calm and could process more, then I came to her and I said, "I would love to hear what you have to say, because I respect her as an artist and I respect her work, and I know that she had the best intentions." And what I love about it, that she was like so kind with this, and she's like, "Oh my God, thank you for saying no to me, and I respect your boundaries, and this taught me a lot, and you were right, and just thank you for saying no to me." And it was such an incredible moment for both of us. And for me, it was so scary to tell her no, because she's an older colleague I've been admiring my whole life. But she was so kind about it, and she was incredible. And then after, we talked about, what she had to say and what she thought, and she was right. And I agreed with her and implemented what she said and everything. But at the moment, my nervous system wasn't able to accept it. It would just throw me further, and I communicated that. That's something I've been practicing with my coach. And at that moment, it was most important to keep my nervous system safe and not triggered, because I realized that it's impacting my whole performance. And this is something that we are not taught. And this is something that the industry kind of propels, that everybody has a right to give you opinion. You should take on everybody's opinion. Every teacher is right, although they have totally opposite opinions and techniques. Every teacher is right. Every director is right. And you are just here to listen to everyone and make everyone happy. And that's not true. And we have the power to choose whose opinion we're going to listen to. There are tools, thank God for, medicine and science and psychology and all of that knows now how to deal with the human brain that's not built to make us thrive. It's built to make us survive. It sees everything as a threat, that we'll be alone, that we'll be expelled from the society, that we'll be, hated by everyone. So it's not safe to be disliked. But the thing is, in arts especially, because some things can be objectively looked at, but a lot of things in arts are very subjective. And you can't take everyone's opinion on because it's so subjective that for one person, for example, again, I'm going to take my example of The Beauty and the Beast, where there are two of us performing Belle, and this other colleague, that I'm her alternation, and she's an incredible belter. She has this beautiful dark voice. She's very known in Croatia, and she's, she belts the whole thing, and it's so powerful and so strong, and I tried to do it like her, but I can't. And I, on the other hand, as I said, I tried belting it, and it just doesn't work for my voice, and it sounded very strained. I'm training, I'm working on it, but it didn't fit. It just didn't work. And I said, okay, I'm going to stop trying, because I had two performances that they were bad. I was not, but it happens. We all have bad performances, and that's fine. I'm learning to accept that as well. But so we're very different. And then the people who expect to see her, they buy tickets, they don't know who's performing when, and they expect to see her and hear her. They come to my performance that we perform Belle totally differently. And then they're disappointed, and they're like, oh my God, no, you can't sing like that, because the other performer, she belts it all out. So how can you perform it all that heavily, and that's ugly, and that's not correct? And then there are other people who are like, no, that's how I imagine Belle, and that's how it should be. And you can't please everyone. I can't belt at the same time sing in my head voice. I can't do that. It's not possible. And I make my artistic choices when I belt and when I do head voice and when I am louder. These are all my artistic choices that I stand behind. But it's so hard to, grow my nervous system capacity to accept the criticism and choose, okay, am I going to listen to this? Is this something that feels right for me? Is this something that I agree with? Is it something that sometimes we are very triggered by criticism because we know that it's right. And then we feel triggered because we also know that it's true. But we want to hide it and protect ourselves. But we have to choose whose opinion we're going to listen to and respect other opinions, but not feel triggered by them or, put them on the pedestal and put them as an authority. This is what I did with my teachers. I changed a lot of teachers, and there were a lot of different techniques involved, and I trusted each and every one of them. Not because, and now don't get me wrong, each of these teachers has successes, and each of these teachers work really well with some people. But not all of them worked for me, because I knew what I was looking for. I felt it in my body, although I fought it, what my voice really is and how I want it, what is really in there. And if what was coming out was aligned or not. We always know this. We always do, even though we lie to ourselves or ignore what our body is telling us. But at the end of the day, we always do know. But I disregarded myself, and I trusted them more because they are the authority. They're the teachers. And then everybody pulls out these phrases of, this is the true bel canto tradition. Or, I worked with that and then person. But it doesn't mean anything. So we have that power of choosing who we're going to trust. We have that power of learning how to work with our nervous system, how to protect our nervous system. So if you were told that you're weak, if you were told that you're not built for this profession, just know that it's not true. Please know that it's not true, because it's just something you weren't taught, something you didn't train. Your nervous system can be built like a muscle. It takes a lot of work, and it's so hard to change your old beliefs and all of those years of conditioning. But it's possible, and there's proof, scientific proof of that we can change our neural pathways. And I just wish that in the performing arts industry, this was taught and talked about, that, it's a lie. It's a lie, and not everybody's an authority, and not every critic is a critic and has a right to say things to you, and you have the power to protect yourself. So I just wanted because this is something I wish someone told me. I wish someone told me, because I was so worried, honestly. I was so scared of performing as an opera singer. It took me such a long time to even say out the words, I'm an opera singer, because I felt like a fraud, because when I would sing in concert, I would die. it was torture for me. Singing in concerts was torture for me because I was trying to follow all of these rules. I was trying to be liked. I begged the audiences and my teachers to like me and to approve of me and give me that stamp of approval saying, yes, you are an opera singer. Yes, you did this well. Yes, you're ready for this career. And I experienced so many times people telling me, you're not ready yet. We have more work to do. And some work can only be done on stage. Some things you learn only when you really start doing this profession. Some things cannot be learned in a room. Some, yes. But mostly I was just, taught, like I was told once on an audition, and I really cared for this role. I really, really wanted it. At this point, I was already so sick of no's that every audition seemed like a life or death situation to me. It seemed like if I don't get this audition, it will just seal my fate forever. And it means that I'm not a singer, and it will just prove once again that I'm not cut out for this job and that I'm just not for this. And I came to this show and I was so scared, and I was so eager. And the director, who knew me, by the way, I stopped, and the first thing he told me was like, why are you so scared? And I looked at him and I was like, what do you mean why I'm scared? I want this. I want you to like me. I want this job. What do you mean? Why am I scared? Because I've experienced so many times that if I make a mistake, I'm not gonna get it. And I will be looked down at, and I will be talked about. And because this is the environment we're all working in. And it's hard to navigate. It's difficult to navigate. If you're not supported, if you get so many no's that we do get, it's so hard to not make it about yourself. And this is why therapy is so important. This is why talking about mental health in the performing arts industry is so important, and building your capacities. And that's also why it's important to create your own opportunities. Because the more I performed, the more releasing it became. I found my own performing style. I found what I love doing and what I don't want to do ever again. I found the way to do concerts that made me feel comfortable and easy, and that I started loving them. And this is why it's so important. At one point you have to start performing. At one point you have to meet yourself where you are and just start doing the work. And of course, we are never done with training. We will never get that perfect tone that we're all looking for. We will never be 100% satisfied with our vocal performance, because that's also something we were taught about, also just because the work is never done. Like Federer, he wins Wimbledon and then he goes back to the practice court the next day to practice again, although he's the best in the world. Don't fight me on this. If you think Djokovic is best in the world, we're not going to fight about this. Anyways, that's, one thing is to practice, because we're going to continue practicing for the rest of our lives. But the other is you just have to start performing at one point, and you have to start trusting what you've done. And you are the one who has to approve of yourself and grow that nervous system capacity. So yeah, that's what I had to say. And if you don't know how to start performing on your own without waiting for someone else to give you that role, if you want to start learning how to create those performing opportunities for yourselves, this is why I created, with my mom, who is a seasoned performing producer, a platform called Vestals. We have an online course called From Performer to Producer. She wrote a book, and this is what we want to do for others, because that empowerment, when you realize, I'll never forget that feeling of when we had the premiere of this puppet opera for children on original music composed by a colleague and friend of mine, a young composer. And it was that's the process that I talked about before, about this, creating in a safe environment with joy, something written for me. And after the premiere, I sat in my dressing room and I was like, after it all finished, I realized I had no stage fright. I sang, for the show is around 50 minutes. Out of that, I sing for like 40, okay, maybe not 35. And I was like, Buga, you just sang an opera you sang for 35 minutes straight and you didn't think once about being a fraud or being afraid or trying to prove yourself. You, for the first time maybe, you actually just enjoyed singing. And that was such a revelation to me. And that was such a moment of self-love and gratefulness and relief, because it was possible. I thought that it's just not possible for me to sing with joy. I just thought this has to be torture forever. And creating that opportunity for myself was like, wow. And that's the feeling I want for each and every one of you, to find the joy back and that feeling of empowerment of I created this for myself. So check the link in the show notes for more information about Westals and our course and how to start doing this for yourself. And also I'll put a few links on people who have really helped me with my mind and with my nervous system, and some resources. So yeah, that's it for today. I hope this was helpful. Let me know your thoughts. I'll also put our Instagram handles in the show notes, so you can also write me there. And yeah, just take care of yourself, please. And I'll hear from you soon. Bye.